using all our spectrum. So, you know, as Ed pointed out, we're using it much more efficiently than any of the new entrants. We are using all of our AWS to provide LTE services. Now, the only spectrum that we are not using right away is where there's, for example, with our 2.3 and 3.5, where there is no LTE ecosystem yet, but our 2.5 spectrum, it's available for LTE. We're using it for LTE. It's what gives us the fastest networks in Canada. So we are using all the spectrum that we've got, and it's because Canadians want really fast speeds on their devices.
Do you need the 2% though of Shaw, the 8% of Videotron too? I mean, what's the strategy there to add that little bit extra? And I'll let everybody else jump in. Sorry.
Okay, well with LTE, the interesting thing is it's a new type of wireless technology which differs a little bit from the previous generation. So with the previous generations, obviously the more spectrum you have, the more capacity you have, the more customers you can serve. And that continues to be true for LTE. So with LTE though, the more spectrum you have, the faster it goes. And this is somewhat different. You cannot, there's no way to build around that. There's no way to put up more cell sites to get that speed. You need continuous blocks of spectrum in order to get the speed. So Bell and Telus combine their spectrum together and build joint networks. And that is approved by government policy. I'm not here to criticize it. But what it means is they can get a faster headline speed because by combining their spectrum together, they get more. If our customers are going to have as fast an experience as Bell and Telus, we're going to need that Shaw spectrum out west. We're going to need that Videotron spectrum in Toronto, and that is why we would like to buy them.
I didn't say that Roger was using its spectrum more efficiently than the new entrants. What I said was Roger was using its spectrum far less efficient than the U.S. carriers in terms of the number of subscribers.
15% of the spectrum for 10% of the customers. We've got 85% of the spectrum for 90% of the customers. Who's using it more efficiently?
Ken, we're in the startup mode. We're growing. We need the spectrum to meet our business model. You can't look at a startup and say, well, you only have a few customers, so why do you need all that spectrum? The fact of the matter is we have oodles of spectrum, and we have a tiny, tiny little sliver. The next point I want to make is that, yes, we have one 5 megahertz per block of spectrum in most markets, and 10 in a bit. And we've launched a particular service based on the HSPA Plus. Now, if we want to introduce LTE, we can't introduce it on the same block. You can't run LTE on the same block of spectrum in the same area as you can HSPA. So by taking all these little slivers, what you do is you close the doors to the new entrants to launching a viable LTE service.
Mobilicity said publicly they had gone all around the world trying to sell their spectrum. So I presume that they went to see you, so you could have bought it. You can't again, apparently.
Well, I'm not going to.
It's a lot more efficient to have a monopoly or quasi-monopoly than it is to have disruption. And that's what's going on here, is we need to have an opportunity for new entrants to compete on the same services as you guys. So LTE, everybody wants to offer LTE. It's useless to go into the market. So what Ed is saying is, you guys have enough. Why do you need to close off the last thing and shave a few more points off of your efficiency? We're talking about restructuring the market and having a new player in, and that will reduce prices. That's what's important. That's what was announced today. So the consumers are back at the center, not the efficiency or the profitability of your particular organizations.
Margo?
Obviously, we're doing extremely well as it is, so that's point one, John. Point two is we have a consumer code now, which will soon be in place, which is good in the sense that it informs and that it will allow consumers to be informed and empowered. So put a check beside that. Point 3 is we've liberalized the foreign ownership rules, so put a check beside that. Point 4 is we have spectrum auctions in 2008 and the one that's coming up next January that allows for other bidders to come on and acquire spectrum, so put a check beside that. The next point is we have mandated tower sharing and mandated roaming rules, so put a check beside that. You look at all these check marks and you compare those check marks to any other country, industrialized country in the world, Canada has put in place a policy regime more conducive to new entry than any other country, industrialized country. Now, with that, with that framework put in place, the capital markets are going to have to decide whether 4 is sustainable in every area of the country. It might be in some, it might not be in others. But all public policy foundational pieces are in place, more so than in any other country. At some point, it's investment in the markets we're going to speak, and consumers as to whether or not 4, 5, or 6 are sustainable. And most industrialized countries, the majority, have 3.
Policy that provides new competitors, and yeah, there'll be a risk that it's not going to work, but we have to give it a fair shake. And what you're talking about, the auction structure is not to continue that policy. I think that's actually the real heart of the state. What's going on here? We needed another set aside, we didn't get it. But you guys really just want to have no risk at all going forward. So
if you think that we have an environment for sustainable competition, I think you're deluding yourself. I don't think you can put check marks into any of the boxes that you're putting. I don't think the roaming policy that relies on commercial negotiations results in anything close to fair roaming rates. I know for domestic roaming, we pay at least an order of magnitude more than we pay for wholesale roaming in the United States. That's because relying on commercial negotiations makes no sense when a new entrant has no leverage. I can tell you for tower sharing that we pay as much sometimes to put an antenna on an undesirable portion of the tower than it costs to build a whole new tower. We're paying extreme rents to get on towers, and municipalities won't let us build additional towers if there's room on the incumbent towers, so we're forced to go to the incumbents. We're paying atrocious rents, and in some cases we're paying make-ready charges to prepare the tower to not only include our own antennas, but future use antennas of the incumbents as well. That just sucks capital from a new entrant and subjects the new entrant to an incredible amount of abuse. So I think we're a far cry from a level competitive playing field, and I don't think the conditions are there at all.
Last year, I sat here and you pulled a fire alarm over some tower access requests with TELUS. I said to you at the time, look, Ed, that's great. What we'll do is I'll take that away and we'll prioritize all of these things and we'll be in touch. Went and did that, had the people do all of the necessary work, prepare all of the information, and you guys, pulled all these applications at the last minute. Wasted effort, wasted work, but still a fire alarm. Then we had a complaint to the CRTC about the Canada line, and you couldn't access that. That was because we were trying to destroy your business or something. So we got that all sorted out, but I haven't heard back from you on that. So that fire alarm, got pulled, but apparently it wasn't quite as serious as you were making it. Now, here is what, from my position, the situation is. You entered the market thinking that Canada was right for a prepaid model with feature phones, and you miscalculated. And lo and behold, and I think some of these slides that Marco and Ken put up demonstrate that Canadians love data use, they love high-end iconic devices, expensive handsets, and in fact, they don't like prepaid so much. That is where your problem is, Ed. That was where...
Yes, we had a little misfire at the beginning, but we've adapted and we have a solid...
Well, then don't blame your misfire on
I'm not blaming a misfire. I'm not blaming a misfire on on that. And what I'm saying is that the incumbents have inflated the cost of tower access to extreme levels, where it's often cheaper to build an entire tower than take the bottom 15 feet of the tower. And it's just a ridiculous commercial standard to expect us to negotiate commercially reasonable rates backstopped by arbitration. It makes no sense. It costs more to go to arbitration than to build a tower. So there's fundamental problems, and they need to be addressed, and hopefully the minister will address those in the coming months.
Possible to build a ubiquitous network without a 100-year monopoly. And in terms of innovation, I think Allstream's demonstrated for a number of years too that we lead innovation. That's how we win a customer. We don't win a customer just through a price, it's through a solution. So really, I think that sort of description of what wholesale access means has been found to be flawed, if not convenient, in every other country than a major country in Canada, where frankly wholesale has kind of moved beyond Canada and shouldn't be part of the language of a modern discussion around what wholesale access means or where we need it. And in terms of costing, there are dark arts in this business, retail pricing and wholesale pricing. But I think actually the Commission's latest decisions on costing and how that process should unfold with competitors having a chance to comment on costing. We all obviously know how to figure out costs in our industry. I don't think they'd be making money if they couldn't figure out where the costs are. So I think that's a little rich too, to say that a costing discussion is obviously it is a work of art which incumbents have used to their advantage for a long time. But we can take a rigorous approach to costing, and we should do so.